back to my channel. Hope you're all doing well tonight. I am home almost alone. My oldest daughter is here and she is going incognito to do her own thing, and so am I. So my husband took all the other kids and adult to Mandalorian movie, and so they're gonna go see that tonight, and so excited. They're gonna do the popcorn thing, they're gonna do the whole thing. So send them off on their way, and I have so much to do, and you know what? I'm just gonna say it's all wait until tomorrow. I'm gonna make this video, I'm gonna read my book, I might watch some booktube. I'm just gonna chill because I'm beat. About 8 o'clock this morning, my oldest son brought over his kids. He's got 3 little kids that are 3, 2, and 1. And we got to babysit all day. He served in the honor guard today. We had an officer, a captain, I think, of the police force here locally, who tragically passed away. And so my son was able to serve in the honor guard, and he was like, "Mom, it was such an honor." And he just kind of talked a lot about that, about what a blessing it was for him to be able to be a part of that and to just represent the law enforcement for our area and to be there for his family. And it was just a real blessing for him. But him and his wife went and did that today. And so we got to watch the grandkids. They were here till about 4:30. So I had a great day. I am wiped out. And that's with my other kids all helping. So yeah, super energetic, sweet kids. All right, so anyway, I want to sit down tonight and give you guys an update on what I've been reading for the last week or so. But I have read a lot in the last week. I wanted to participate in the Red, White, and June readathon that's going on this month. But I knew that I didn't want to read anything really kind of heavy or, I don't know, super informational, because I'm doing a lot of kind of heavier things for my medieval studies that I really want to focus on that. So I didn't want to get too far off track with those this month. And so I thought that it would be fun just to devote like a week to reading all about the Revolutionary War era, but from middle grade books. And so that's what I did. It was so much fun. I have a few more I might read through tonight just to finish up, but I've read quite a bit. So I read the I read the first 6 Felicity books from the American Girl collection. So I'll go through them for you. And then I read kind of like a newer, I mean, relatively, like newer than these anyway, little story that, anyway, I'll talk about them. Okay. So the first one I read was Meet Felicity. So that's book number 1. And these are from, if you're not familiar with American Girl dolls, it's a thing started in the 90s. This woman made dolls and books and accessories and stuff all to correspond with different time periods and to help kids, you know, mostly young girls, learn about, you know, America and different parts of American history. So Felicity was one of the like first, you know, OG dolls and one of my daughter's favorites. So reading through these was really fun because it just made me feel really nostalgic for her childhood. She's 26 now, so yeah. But anyway, I read Meet Felicity first. In this one, Felicity frees a horse that is being abused by its owner. So in the book, the owner yells mean things at the horse and whips it, and the horse seems to be dirty a lot and that kind of thing. And so Felicity takes it upon herself to free this horse. And so I got mixed feelings, right? Because on one hand, like, yay, Felicity, you did a good job by freeing this abused animal. On the other hand, it was that guy's property, and so she basically stole it and let it go. So yeah, but you know, she's 9, so what can you say? The next one was Felicity Learns a Lesson. And in this one, she meets her friend, Elizabeth Cole. I don't think she's met Elizabeth yet in the first one. So she meets her friend Elizabeth, and they take lessons together with Miss Manderley and Elizabeth's older sister, Annabelle. And it's just kind of about them forming their friendship. In this one, Felicity also learns about the Boston Tea Party and the fact that people would refuse tea and refuse to have it in their homes. Her father's a shopkeeper. He refused to sell it. And so she learns the proper way to refuse tea, which is apparently turning your teacup upside down on your plate, placing the spoon along the top, or I guess that would be the bottom, and saying, "Thank you, I shall have no tea." Just in case you ever want to refuse when you're at a tea party, that's what you do. All right, and then the third one was Felicity's surprise. And in this one, Felicity is invited to go to a dance lesson at a prestigious home of a lord or something. So her mother's going to make her a beautiful dress. And in the meantime, her mother gets very sick. And so Felicity has to put aside all of her childish ways and take care of her mother in the home, because she's the oldest daughter. And so it appears that she may not be able to go to the dance. And then lovely things happen, and as you can see, there she is. When my daughters, my two oldest daughters, were like probably 6 and 11, 5 and 12, 5 and 11, somewhere in there, I made them matching dresses to match this one so that they could wear them to the daddy-daughter dance with their dad. And yeah, they were like almost exactly. It's pretty cool. All right, so then number 4, I read Happy Birthday, Felicity. That's this one. And this is, I think, the one where we are introduced to Felicity's grandfather, who is a loyalist, and Felicity's family are patriots. So you kind of vaguely learn about the difference between loyalists and patriots and what sort of things went on. They are books that are written for young children, right? So they don't go into too many gory details, but they do try to give you the your look at both sides, and the books are definitely coming from the perspective of the patriots, right? And so in this story, we're introduced to her grandfather. I think, she goes out to visit him in the country in this one. And so we get to see his plantation, and she has her birthday, and she gets a special present, and then she gets in trouble and gets the present taken away, and then anyway, it's a whole thing. But I think it was probably my least favorite. Felicity is kind of bratty in this one, and her grandpa, like, is kind of a manipulative gaslighter. I don't know. I just didn't really prefer him, and I didn't prefer the story. Then we have book 5, which is Felicity Saves the Day. As you can see, Felicity is on Penny once again, the horse that she freed from Jiggy Nye. And now she's on this horse. So kind of a spoiler there. But this tells how she got the horse. And then also she gets involved in something where she has to sort of save the day. And then finally, the 6th book was Changes for Felicity. So this is the final one in like the original 6 books that were originally published with the doll. This one, just lots of things happen, more political things, and some sad things in Felicity's life. And it's just kind of like changes are on the horizon. The revolution is starting or picking up speed, sort of a thing. So those were the original Felicity books. And then later on, I don't know like how much later on, but let's see if I can read this one says 1999, and the original books were 91, 92-ish. They started publishing these littler books, kind of like side quests, Felicity's. This one is on her new sister, Baby Polly, which actually does feature in the original 6 books. So this is just kind of like a side book that tells a little more details on that particular story, but not enough to make a little book out of, I think. But it's only like 40 pages or something. So I think there might have been, I don't know if these came like in a little box collection or what, but anyway, I read through that one. And then I took a break from Felicity. I think I have maybe 3 more of the Felicity ones that are like that one I just showed you. So I took a little break and I read about Elizabeth, who is Felicity's best friend. And this is Very Funny Elizabeth. Now, this one was written quite a bit later than the original series. This one was published in 2005. And the reason why that's a big deal is because the voice, while it's the same author, the voice in this one is much different. The girls are meaner. They're really bratty. And then they also don't explain how Elizabeth went from a brunette to a blonde, but that's fine, I guess. But anyway, it's just a totally different tone. And I didn't like it so much. But that was my daughter's favorite doll. That was the first doll she ever got, was Elizabeth. All right, and then the other middle grade that I read this week was this one. This is Liberty or Death, American Revolution. And this is a nonfiction, informational book. Now, I was really impressed with this. I have had this book for a really long time on our homeschool shelf. I don't know how I got it. Somebody sent it to me, or we picked it up at a book sale or something. But I was really impressed with this. It's got a lot of really great illustrations. It's got a lot of really great, like, maps. They're just simple, right? They're just, it shows like a close-up of the map of the actual place they're talking about in the, on the page. And the illustrations are just really simple, but it has like these like portraits. It's all kind of done in colored pencil. I don't know. I thought it was really well done. It's really informative. There's a lot of information in this book, and it really lays out just the general, I don't know, it goes out to 1783. So yeah, it just gives like the general gist of things that happened. It ends right as Washington is coming in as the president, I think, is where it ends. And then it's got like a great index in the back. It's got like more information about people that aren't mentioned here in a lot of detail, table of dates. Like, it's just got a lot of really good information. So if you are a homeschooler or you're just interested in this, this is a good addition to the library. I'm glad that my kids have had access to this over the years. And I just kind of have always had like this big library of things they could just take and read and whatever, So I've seen them pick this up quite a few times, but I've never read it myself. But I'm glad that they have this because I learned a lot. All right, and then the last book that I read that wasn't a middle grade was A Girl Called Samson by Amy Harmon. This one is a full-length adult novel, and it tells the fictionalized story of a real-life person named Deborah Samson, who during the Revolutionary War, she disguised herself as a man and she went to battle. She was in battle for like 18 months or something. As a soldier, living with these men, fighting alongside them. She went and worked for a general and served him like as a, just in his household sort of a thing. And apparently never got caught until she got sick. And once she got sick, then, whether I don't know if she was sleeping or knocked out or what, but the doctors were doing what they needed to do with her and found out that she had been wrapping her chest to flatten it and that she actually was a woman. So they took her, I guess, home, and the doctor, I guess, took her home and let his wife and daughters, I think, care for her until she was well. She ended up leaving the military with honorable discharge, and she went on to marry and have children, and she would go like on these speaking circuit, I guess, and tell her story. So this is the real life Deborah Samson, right? I'm not giving you spoilers for the book here. This is the real life person. She would go and she'd start off, I guess, by sort of like giving a speech about like the glories of motherhood and of, being a wife and a homemaker, and just talking about the beauty of it and how much she, loves it. She appreciates that she gets to do it and all that kind of stuff. And then she would like show them how she like loads and reloads or whatever. She'd like show them all the soldiering stuff and what a capable soldier she was. And so she would do all the like different drills and different stuff in her uniform. And then she'd tell her story, right, about what she did and kind of promoting the idea that, women are strong and smart and with it and capable and able to do both of those things if they want to. So I thought that was pretty fantastic. She's a pretty cool person from history. So this book is a historical fiction telling of her story. I did not enjoy it. And my problems with it seem to be the same problems that other people, like on Goodreads, who gave low reviews, we seem to have the same problems in common. So I only gave this book 1 star. Up until maybe like page 320-ish, it was sitting at 3 stars for me. And then it just kind of went downhill. So I'll talk about that in a second. But this story kept to Deborah's story. I don't know, I wouldn't say for the most part, but the ways in which it veered off for the most part weren't that big of a deal. There was a couple of things that really, really bothered me. And this is one of the reasons why I lowered the stars. But this author, okay, when you're writing a historical fiction, my personal opinion is that there are some things you can't mess with, right? So if you're going to tell like a retelling of somebody's life, I think you can mess with things like what color was their hair, what was their dad's name, or like where did they go to school, or maybe they were born, you know, this year instead of 2 years later, or, you know, to make it sort of fit with, you know, the characters you want to introduce into the story. You know, maybe this character, you know, in this particular case is going to meet George Washington, but she needs to meet him at this certain time in Washington's history, so you need to change up her timeline to, you know, that kind of thing, to line up. That kind of stuff I don't think is a big deal. What I do think is a big deal is when you're changing up really precious and important you know, elements of that person's life. For instance, the person that this author has Deborah Samson getting together with and eventually marrying is not the person that she was married to in real life, right? It's a completely different person. And that person was married to somebody else completely different in real life. And they had children, you know, and Deborah had children. And some of the children in the book are named with the same names that real life Deborah gave to her real life children that she had with her real life husband, who wasn't the guy in this book. And I just think, like, they still have descendants, right? Like, that's still those are lives. And I've heard some people say things like, well, they're vague people from history, but they're not. Neither one of them is a vague person from history. They're actually well-known people from history. And my daughter told me about Deborah Samson when she was like 8 years old. Like, they are well known, but I don't think that should matter. I think that it's more of the fact that they were real and they had a real life and a real love and real children and a real precious life with someone. And to change that up just to be more sensational and romantic, that really bothered me. And so, yeah, I wasn't cool with that. But then, when I began the book, it started off with some faith content, and it just kind of continued on with some faith content, just talking about, I can't even remember now, there was just faith and scripture and stuff. And so I think that led me to think that this was a Christian fiction book. I hadn't researched it ahead of time, which is weird because I hardly read any fiction, modern fiction at all, like ever at all. And when I do, I really research it first, but I just didn't in this one. I failed. So anyway, I just assumed that it was going to be Christian fiction, right? Because there's scripture and there's talk about God and it's like good stuff. But so then I think that like the more profanity showed up, I was just like, what is going on? Okay, well maybe this is just like a super liberal sort of Christian who's okay with profanity. Like, I don't know. Maybe this is a super liberal publishing house that's okay, right? And I just was kind of like, I don't like profanity in books. I've talked about that before, but I was just like, well, I'm going to keep going because it's an interesting story. And in some cases, you know, maybe I would say that stuff if I was in their position too. So we are dealing with a whole bunch of men. Like, she's trying to set an atmosphere of them being rough and gruff and, you know, the way that they act when they're not around women. Like, I can understand that, of the idea that she wants to show some of the things that Deborah would have experienced as a, you know, secret woman. Things she may not have been exposed to, because she does comment a couple of times on how, wow, men sure act differently when there's no women around. So, you know, whatever. But like 320 pages in, we start in with the open door scenes. And so that really bothered me because I felt kind of blindsided. And again, it's not that there's no fault towards the author, right? Because she never told me she was writing a Christian fiction book. She never said she was writing a clean book, right? So it was all my assumptions. And there were several open door scenes, and they're pretty open door. Like, that's also a debate, I guess, on Goodreads for this book. But for my taste, they were open door. So, and they, you know, some were before marriage. I wasn't okay with it. I just wasn't okay with it, right? And I get it. I'm reading a secular book, and that's what you're going to find in secular books. So I think I was just surprised because my assumption was incorrect. And had I done my research like I should have, I wouldn't have encountered it in the first place, right? So it's just like, I just hate that. I made a whole video on it. You guys probably already seen it. I've made a whole video just about sexual content in book, and I just feel like it's like a raping of the mind. That's what I said in my video. I'm sorry if that was harsh, but that's how you feel sometimes when you come across it and you weren't expecting it, right? And it's just 100% why I just don't read modern fiction. I just don't. I mean, hardly at all. So I stick to classics and do my research if I'm going to. So I wanted to throw that out there because I know there's a few people wanting to read that this month or whenever. And if you want to read it, awesome. But just to let you know, it's not Christian fiction, and it's definitely not clean. I didn't like how the author portrayed Deborah here. She didn't seem as worried about... She didn't seem so much as worried about fighting for her country as she was worried about fighting for her right to do whatever she wanted to do based on, you know, who she was and not based on her gender, which I don't necessarily have a problem with that. When she went into it, she was not married. She did not have children, so she didn't have any female responsibilities, right? And that, for me, that changes everything. Like, do whatever you want if you don't have people you're responsible to, you know, and she didn't, so that's fine. But I also think that, I don't know, I felt like for her in the story, it was more of a gender dysphoria sort of bent rather than just, I'm just going to go dress up like a guy so I can go be a soldier. She really seemed to struggle with her gender in some ways. And I think if the author was trying to go that direction, she was doing it subtly. I think maybe I am picking up on things, or maybe just overly sensitive. It could be nothing, right? Just because I have people in my life, more than one, that struggle with that gender dysphoria thing. And so I think that I'm just kind of sensitive to it because I recognize similar patterns and speech and actions and things, right? So there's that, if that's something concerning to you. But anyway, I went really long on that book. I apologize. Yeah, this wasn't a fan. Okay, and then I've just read some partial stuff. So I read another chapter in my Remarkable Manuscripts. I read about... Some of these you have to look at again to remember how to pronounce them. Oh, this is just the Morgan Beatus. So this was a manuscript about Revelation and apocryphal information. And it's in the J.P. Morgan Library. And so there was a little bit about him. There's a little bit about the woman who, interestingly enough, disguised herself as a white woman to work there. She was a black woman, but she was passing as white. Her name is Belle de Costa Green. So there's a little bit about her in there, and just kind of the history of that document. I may have already told you about that one. I can't remember. But then last night I read half of the book on medieval tiles that I was wanting to read. And so I just learned about there's the different ways of making a couple of these tiles, mosaic tiles versus like relief and line impressed tiles, and just the general medieval tile industry. I keep wanting to say tire. The Middle Ages may have had a tire industry. One thing that I was talking to my husband about right before I went to bed last night, I'll see if you guys can kind of see this picture. This is a tile floor, maybe. It's a print that someone made in 1801 of the layout of the mosaic floor in the sanctuary of a church at Ely Cathedral. And they mention, so we got Adam and Eve here, right? And then they mention the lions. So we've got all these lions, right? And what they don't mention is like this dragon in the middle. And I don't know if they don't mention it just because I don't know how to explain it, so we're just not going to talk about it, pretend like it's not there. But I was talking to my husband, and I was like, if we can talk about the lions, but we can't talk about the dragon, well, neither one of those are a part of England anymore. Like, isn't it just as fantastical to have lions in England as it is to have a dragon in England? Because I don't think there's lions in England. And so we were just talking about that, about how, like, there are historically accepted animals and then there are non-historically accepted animals. And I just wanted to know why a lion could be historically accepted when we have... Do we have any evidence? Have we found bones? Have we found, like, what's the evidence of lions in England? As opposed to the evidence of dragons in England. I'm gonna guess the evidence is probably the same. And it's probably the same kind of evidence. So anyway, we kind of went off on that for a while and then I crashed. So I'm gonna finish that tonight. I'm probably gonna finish the other Felicity books. I've been organizing my library. I don't know if this looks any different to you guys. My old sitting place, I'm still working on it, but my old seating place used to be right over there. See, there's my shelf with the flowers and stuff that I had behind me. Now my seating place is here across the room. I added these 2 shelves and blocked a window. So I was like, I always keep the blinds down anyway on that window because I don't want it to shine a bunch of light across the room and fade out all the books on the shelves over there. And so I always keep those blinds shut anyways. And I was like, why don't I take advantage of the space and put a couple more shelves there? So I did. So now my chair is over here and I still have a lot to do in here. Why am I telling you this? I can't remember. Oh yeah. Anyway, I was going through my books, obviously rearranging and putting things in different places. And I found like 4 Gothic books. Only 3 of them are classics. So if you guys remember, I did Gothic October Classics version last fall. And I want to do that again, but I wanted to have some more to recommend to you guys. And so I saved those out. I might start one of those tonight. That's what I'm getting at by telling you all this stuff. Is I might start one of those tonight as well and read through so I have a good list of recommendations when October comes. That's about it. This is the last busy week for a few weeks anyway. We babysat today. My daughter takes her driver's test at the end of the week. Yay. And then my husband and my son are going to be gone all weekend at a card game tournament. And so that's just going to be laying around and reading weekend. Yeah. And then life is just chill for a while. Yay. We got camp out of the way. We got appointments out of the way. So yeah. It's coming on to the lazy part of summer, I hope. At least for July. July is usually pretty lazy for us. All right. That's enough babbling, guys. Hope everybody's doing well. I will talk to you soon.